How would you like to make your first million? And today we have Rob Hain with us, and he's referred as the Mr. Life Settlement. Has been a major influence on the evolution of the life industry during his 32 years career of productive involvement. So, Rob, tell us, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, I think that you should first find something you love and you're passionate about. Okay, so that's number one. You're not going to be successful if you don't love what you do. So I always tell people that if you're not going to work, you're just living your life, and if you love what you do, you're going to be successful. And number two, never give up. Business I'm in is a business that was and still is, for quite frankly, under attack. Life insurance companies do not actually like what we do because, God forbid, they make them pay the death claim. So to keep your nose to the grindstone, collect friends along the way. Enemies are, why make an enemy for free? So don't make enemies. Enlarge your resources in terms of your mastermind group, the people that you surround yourself with. Collect those people, learn from them. Maybe they'll even learn from you. Try and grow the industry as a whole that you're in, not just your company. I think a bigger industry makes everybody bigger. So the rising tide lifts all boats theory has worked for me. And again, just to go back and make a full circle with this, to really talk about what you do with a lot of passion and a lot of energy, realizing that for the first time in their lives, they may be hearing this, and you may have said it 15 million times prior. So to constantly just be in charge of your thoughts and invite all kinds of questions, let them ask you whatever they want. Don't choreograph anything. Let everything come to you naturally. And at the end of the road, you should be successful. You should make more than $1 million, honestly.
So tell us about your business, Rob. What story? How you started this business?
In the early 1990s, I was in the gym, and a gentleman that I knew who was, I opinion, very, very, came up to me and said he was in a new business. And he explained that he was in, at the time, it was called viatical settlements. And he said that he was helping people that were dying of HIV and or AIDS sell their policies to use the cash to get medicines. And quite honestly, I thought that was the most ghoulish thing I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, this is horrible. And then I probably made my mind up that this would not be something I would be doing. And I went home. And as I drove my car from the gym to the first traffic light, at the traffic light, it like what an epiphany, it hit me. And it said to me, you're keeping the insurance companies honest. You're the little guy. They're the big guy. You're helping people who would otherwise not get help find money in an asset that no one ever told them was theirs and they owned it. So I told my mother what I was going to do, and then my then girlfriend, now wife, that I was going to do this. Both of them thought I was insane. And my mother, I don't think, talked to me for 4 months. And 32 and a half years later, I'm on your podcast. So I've enjoyed it all along the way. That's how I've earned the moniker Mr. Life Settlements, because I've always been front and center of this industry as much as I can be, trying to promote it. And we watched it grow from the viatical settlement industry, which was quite big in the 90s. If you knew anything about HIV and AIDS here in America, the drugs that you could get to survive weren't available. They weren't FDA approved, and they weren't anybody's insurance. So you had to go different places to get them. Dallas Buyers Club comes to mind. I see you're a movie buff. That was one with Matthew McConaughey, was in Leto. They talked about this place where people would use cash to buy medicine from Mexico and bring it in the United States. So what it turns out is as we were helping people at the final months of their lives, if you will, use the medicine to stay alive and die in peace and comfort and not destitute, actually we saved their life because they were able to take those medicines. And when the cocktail finally came forward, those people could take that, and many are still alive today. But that transitioned it to life settlements. That's when we went from buying people that were dying of a terminal or chronic illness, and now we're dealing with people that are bumping up against mortality of older people, senior settlements, if you will, is how it first started. And that is gives the people the right to sell a life insurance policy that they want, that they can't afford. Many people do not know that you own your life insurance like you own your home. So 1911, there was a Supreme Court decision where Oliver Wendell Holmes, Supreme Court Justice, said that it is all the characteristics of real property, just like your house. So you could assign it for value to other people, use it as cash, more or less. And in this case, cash it in, but not to the insurance company, to a third-party investor who gives you 6.5 times more on average, more money. So if you were going to surrender $1 million life insurance policy, let's say for $50,000, and that sounds like a lot of money, right? Well, what if you get $350,000, $325,000,
So Rob,
270?
how the investor make the money?
I'm sorry?
How the investor make the money then?
Well, if you are the investor and we buy a life insurance policy and that person has a 4-year life expectancy and we pay $300,000 for it, in 6 years we get $1 million. We paid the premiums all along, so there'd be some value, and you would figure out what your rate of return would be, and that's you paid the premiums, you paid the cash to the client, paid a commission, and then you'd be $300,000 or $400,000. It might be a 13% return, 16% return, 18% return. That's how they make the money. Here's the upside. If you buy the life insurance policy on somebody who has got a 20-year life expectancy, very long, the client is going to lapse the policy for literally nothing. It's $1 million policy. And you buy the policy from that client for $25,000. And everyone says, well, who's going to sell their policy, $1 million policy for $25,000? And I go, the person who's going to let it lapse for zero is going to sell it for $25,000. After all, he's going to live 25 years.
100%, 100%.
And if he dies next year because he trips and falls down the stairs of his vacation home at the beach, you get the full death benefit. So you never know when somebody.
But then my question to you is, but then you have to make sure that you can claim it, because all this insurance company, they have this.
Oh, you are correct, but that's all taken care of in the contracts phase. You assign the policy over. This business is regulated in 45 states here in the United States. 5 don't regulate it, but we treat it like it does. So the money goes into escrow. The policies is assigned over. All the beneficiaries sign off. They release themselves from any claims. The new owner takes over, and then it's recorded at the insurance company. So if it was owned by Rob Haynie, and Rob Haynie was selling it to ABC Corporation, ABC Corporation would be the new owner of the life insurance policy. And no money would change hands until that actually happened. So just a report in
And when person pass away, the that insurance gets by for them.
That's correct.
So what biggest challenge in your business, and how you overcome that challenge?
Great question. So our biggest challenge is the life insurance companies, because they don't like this. They do not want you to know you can sell your policy. They want you to lapse the policy you want to claim. So I'll give you an example. We sold about $4 billion of death benefit last year in the United States of America. $4 billion. That sounds like a lot of money until I tell you the next number. That roughly equates to less than 3% of the potential people that could benefit from this. Meaning that same year, about $112 billion of death benefit was either lapsed or surrendered. Same year for people over the age of 65. So $4 billion was sold, and on top of that, 112 was lapsed or surrendered. So our business, I've been in it 32 years, going on 33 years, hasn't even started yet, because most people have no knowledge that this exists. Certainly the consumer would be the largest percentage of population who has no idea. But here's the scary part. Many insurance agents know you can sell your policy. Some of them might know it, but they're told by their carrier if they tell anybody about it, they're going to get fired. Okay? Assisted living facilities, retirement homes. Very few people inside their financial services department have any idea this exists. CPAs, estate planning attorneys, elder law attorneys have no idea. Wealth managers, bank trust officers have no idea. So what I'm trying to tell you is we might be the worst marketers collectively in the history of mankind. We've been doing it, for, like I said, for a little over 3.5 decades, and still there's such a plethora of people who have no idea what this is. So that's our charge every day. We try and just make it different ways to say the same thing. There's commercials running on TV. I'm doing your podcast, Harry. So this is important stuff. Your audience that I'm reaching today will listen to you and will take this I say to heart better than if I talk to them directly because they don't know who I am, but they know who you are. So as many of these as I can do and the different types and styles of podcasts that I get on, the more effective they are. People love to hear new information and they like to test them. And of course, here's the best part about what we do. It doesn't cost you anything. So when you get your home appraised, you pay an appraiser. You don't pay us anything. We go out and find out what it's worth. And then for you to decide what you want to do, that is totally your decision, not ours.
Very interesting. So, but one more question: when the insurance of the person, if the person passes away, the benefit doesn't go to the next.
No, they sign it away because remember, these policies before they sold it, they were going to get rid of it anyway. They were going to lapse. So if you lapse the policy just disappears. No one gets anything. If you surrender for the cash surrender value, the policy's over. It ends. You get the cash surrender value and you go. We're going out this way. No ever take an offer lower than cash surrender value. Certainly never. And then of course, if we can't beat zero, then obviously lapsing is the best choice. But like I told you earlier, we're getting them a substantial amount of money over and above what they would get in their other options. So everybody, so if you have beneficiaries that might be concerned, you might be concerned they're going to say like, oh, I wanted that money, I should have that money. Well, they're given the right to pay the premiums before any policy takes place. We're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, their daughters, Karen and Sam, would you like to mom and dad's premiums? Because if not, mom and dad are going to surrender the policy for X number of dollars. Would you like to pay the premiums and get the cash value? Generally speaking, they don't have the money.
Because the premiums are high. How much is the
Big
premium?
time. They can be as much as 4% of face or 6 or 10. The older you get, the more expensive insurance gets. So when you get to be 75, 80 years old, these are expensive. In some cases, the amount of money you pay in premiums eclipses the death benefit. You'll actually pay more in premiums for the actual death benefit. But it paid a long time. Sometimes if you have the money, it's worth it to do that. Life insurance for high net worth people are used for tax purposes, right? So they buy life insurance. So when they get estate tax, that really acts as the taxes that'll go to the government. This way, the transfer of the assets go to the children without any tax consequence. So that's why people buy life insurance if they're very, very wealthy. If they're super wealthy, like they're wealthy, they don't buy insurance. They're self-insured. They don't need it.
The so Robert, so how many years have been you've been working on this? And tell us how nice to step up on that you're looking for, and how that works.
So I've been doing it for 32 years, and in September the 13th, it'll be years. Like I said, I walked into this having no idea what this is and quickly realized that I was in a situation where not a lot of people knew about it. And I knew a lot about it and I stayed in it and it's helped me, maintain a certain level of I wouldn't want to say appreciation, but I'm usually involved in all the decision making related to the life settlement industry. I serve on the board of directors of LISA, which is the Life Insurance Settlement Association. So I tried to pride myself on kind of knowing a lot about a little. I don't know everything about everything, but I know a little about almost everything. And the second part of your question was, I'm sorry, I missed that.
The investors, what type of investor you're looking for, and how the process works.
So think of an investor who's an accredited investor or someone that's a very sophisticated investor. So think of there's been a lot of European hedge funds pension funds that have come into this. They're the most interesting because they were the first buyer who liked to buy longer life expectancies. And someone said, why would they want to buy something that's going to take so long for them to get their money back? And the answer was simple, because they're going to buy it very cheaply in the beginning. And that's the part I described, is you can buy someone for 5 cents on the dollar and then they could pass away early. So they would see that upside to that potential and they would stay in it, realizing that many of them are going to go right to about when they thought. And of course, some are going to leak past that number. So they have to have the bandwidth to withstand pain and they got to be able to hold on. I can't think of another asset manager that has a longer lifespan in terms of the ability to wait for the return than a pension fund because their time horizons are off in the distance. So that's why they were able to buy 20-year life expectancies. Whereas, 15 years ago, there was nobody buying a 20-year life expectancy. So hedge funds, venture capital, individual investors, what do you call a accredited investor here in the United States, somebody that could lose 100 grand and it's not going to bankrupt them. Those type of people are investing in these policies because there is risk, right? As there is with anything. You could buy one policy and think that person was going to pass away in 5 years, and that person could take 10 years to pass away, which is why we recommend do not buy just one policy. I'll make a joke here and tell you my thoughts are. I'm the worst at deciding what somebody's life expectancy is because I've seen so many that I've got so much built in my brain that I think always, oh, that's going to be, it could always, there's always something that can happen. So you have to be able to buy lots of policies and let the law of large numbers work out. So think of somebody with tens of millions of dollars to deploy, and they're always a lot larger companies like, for example, as the pension funds I mentioned, they have to allocate certain funds. They just can't all be in the same buckets. So this is considered to be an alternative asset, something that's, there's a lot of other alternative assets. This just happens to be one of them. That's different. It's not something you're going to watch on the financial channels and it go up and down, although we do have a public company in our business now. But they do a bunch of other things in addition to buy life insurance policies.
And then, what type of returns are they are projected to expect? Of course, time is unpredictable when they can cash out, but there is no another hidden cost. For example, it's big insurance company, they have a lot of lawyers that charge a lot of money. And when you want to clean that at the end, it's gonna be difficult to find those big companies, right?
Well, you're right, but here's the thing. So the way insurance companies work is we've never had an insurance company not pay a death claim ever. Okay, they don't. We are such a micro fraction of what the total world is that this is so tiny that they shouldn't be concerned with anything on this business. So for example, if I bought the policies, let's say we bought 100 policies ourselves. We were directed, you and I both ran a hedge fund together and we're buying policies. And then we had all these policies with these 12 and 13-year life expectancies. And about year 8, you and I ran into financial troubles for whatever reason. Okay. We needed to get liquidity quick, right? What can we do now? We can sell those policies in the tertiary market. We don't have to wait. We can revalue them, re-underwrite them, and find buyers that will come in and buy those policies, and we can raise cash very quickly. That's what's great about this business is it's not illiquid in the sense that I have to hold it forever. So if we bought a policy, take that pension fund example. I bought the policy for 5 cents on the dollar. And 3 years later, they had a massive stroke. Their life expectancy was 20, 25 years. Now it's 10, but it's only 4 years later, right? What do? Sell it. We make that money. We get out of that policy. We to someone else who it's a great buy for them too. Now they have a 10-year life expectancy with some impairments, and that's why they buy it. So that's why this business works. Without a tertiary market, there would be no secondary market. And we've learned that not the hard way, but through just time and circumstances.
Share the statistic that you with me about life insurance. How many percentage actually get cashed out?
Sure. So here you go. This is the simplest one. 96% of term policies never go to claim. They're lapsed. 96. So you think, why is that possible? Because when you get your first job out of college, you get insurance for 3 years. It's in your package. And then you get a new job. You let that policy lapse, you get another policy. You go 6 more years there, you get another job, you let that policy lapse, and you keep going until you finally settle into your career. Okay, that's what happens to life insurance. Certainly term. Universal life, whole life, which is called permanent life insurance, that's about 86%. So cumulatively, adding it all up, about 9 out of every 10 policies never goes to claim. So when you think about a marketplace that somewhere between 15 and 17 trillion dollars of life is in force at any given time in the United States of America, and 90% of that is never going to go to claim. That's a pretty good business model, right?
What are the main reasons why they don't claim it?
People just forget. They don't need it anymore. They forgot they owned it. They literally, many people just forget they own it. Their insurance company agent, if you will, disappears. They move. The bill doesn't ever reach them. They just let it lapse. These are younger people, right? These are the people that just really, why do you even have this? So when you have a job, you have group life insurance, and when you leave your job, you can policy with you, right? But when you're young, why are you going to do that? It's going to be 12 times expensive. You're about to get new insurance over here. You wouldn't do it. So when you're older, we try and educate people in the sense, if you worked for Dell Computer for 40 years and you're leaving, we're telling you, make sure you find out how you can portable that life insurance into your hands, that you can take it with you and it's now yours. How to do that? Because you now, even though it might be more expensive than it used to be, it's going to be less expensive than you trying to go out and get life insurance yourself now. That's going to be very expensive. The older you are, the more expensive that it is. I'm going to be 62 in a couple months. I had to convert my term life insurance for 20 years, and the premiums went up 7 times. Same policy, 7 times. So I'm very well aware of how much things cost. And that's life insurance. The goal is to it's there if you need it. It's a great thing to have. I recommend all people, if they have life insurance, they want to protect themselves, to get it. But when you get older, a lot of the reasons that people buy life insurance when they're younger, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, I've got a job, all these different things. Now, when you're 65, 70, your kids are grown up, your mortgage is paid off. So all these things that you've got for protection, you don't need that anymore. So people don't need it. So we recommend maybe you can lower the face amount, make it more affordable. You can sell half of the policy, keep half of the policy, use the proceeds from the sale to pay the premiums. So there's a million ways to work with life insurance. You just have options. And we tell people, find out what it's worth. If you surrender it, find out what it's worth in a settlement, and then you can compare them, setting them side by side, what's best for you.
What's the last message you recommend? Entrepreneurs that want to grow the business.
Well, I mean, you want to stay ahead of all of the new technologies that are available. AI is here, whether you like it or not. I use it all the time. I learn about it all the time. I have no idea what half the time I'm learning about until I listen to it over and over and over. But I implement it in my practice. It makes things far easier to prepare for. I use my old presentations and I say, please update this with current information. I literally just tell it that, it does it. And to always be flexible, right? To never be rigid. Don't be afraid of change. Change what you need to do at the time you need to do it. Certain things don't work. Our business is a perfect example of 1,000 things that don't work. But sometimes they can surprise you, and they do work. So embrace a positive attitude. I mean, there's doesn't cost you anything. Everybody can be negative, but you might as well be positive.
How about if someone is in love with this conversation, I want to find out how this process works?
Sure. My website is www.lisettlements.com. My email is rob@lisettlements.com. And my phone number is area code 954-599-4433.
That note so much up for being on the podcast and for all of you following the podcast. I see you in our next episode of On Stuff. How Rob entrepreneurs cannot break that wall and achieve the first million and keep helping people. I think it's a big help what you're doing for people. You have a great business. I applaud you for that. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.